Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to do this cube walk loop. It's super simple and it's going to take less than 5 minutes. As always, we're going to start with a new Blender file here. Go ahead and delete this light. Now add a plane. Add mesh plane. Scale that up to 10. S10. Enter. Let's give our cube a little bit more room here and move our Z of our plane down to -2. Just like that. Now let's go ahead in here and give our cube a little bevel, make it look a little nicer. You guys can make this bevel whatever you want. I'm just going to keep it at 0.1 and give that 100 segments, and I'm going to apply that. Now let's go ahead and duplicate our cube using Shift D, press enter, and you'll be able to drag this cube up. Right now we have our second cube, and I want to put that cube at exactly 2 on the Z-axis. So now you have these 2 stacked cubes right here. So now we need a way to animate these cubes. We could rotate them by themselves, but they're going to run into each other. And you'll see why this is important in a second. What we're actually going to do is create an empty to control each cube. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go to Add, Empty, Plane Axis. And then what we want to do is we want to move our plane axis up to the perfect spot, which is going to be -1 for the Y and 1 for the Z. So now it's sitting right here in between these 2 cubes. At this point, it helps to name things, which I'll do in a little bit. But right now, you want to go ahead and select that top cube, hold Shift, select the empty, right-click, Parent, Object. So now our empty here controls this cube. So now we're able to rotate the cube on the empty's axis, which is super useful for this animation. Now we just need one more empty to control the bottom cube. So I'm going to go ahead and move all of this out of the way using that empty. Don't worry, we'll move it back. Add, empty, plane axis. Go ahead and move it up to that exact same spot. We're going to go ahead and give that a -1 for the Y and a 1 for the Z. And then again, select our bottom cube, select our empty, shift click, right click, parent, object. And now we have 2 empties, both controlling these cubes. And I'm going to go ahead at this point and select the top empty and bring it all the way back here to 0. I'm sorry, to -1. So now they're both stacked perfectly on top of each other, and now we can start animating everything. So before we start animating anything here, we're actually going to go to our scene property and make sure our end frame is at 30, because really that's all the frames that we need for this. You guys can customize this to your liking, but I'm going to go ahead and use 30. So just for reference, I did go ahead and name these behind the scenes here. I have the bottom cube controller, right? So I know that I'm controlling the bottom cube with this empty. And then I have the top cube controller so that I know that I'm controlling the top cube with this empty. Okay? And that just helps us keep things organized here. All right, let's start animating. So select your top cube controller, empty, right? So we've got our empty here. Go to frame 1. So it looks like I'm already on frame 1. We're good to go. And press I and do location and rotation. And so what that's going to do is insert a keyframe for the location and rotation values on frame 1. Skip all the way to frame 30 here. And what we're going to do is now move our empty all the way over here to Y = 1. And we are going to change the X rotation to 90. And then again, I, location and rotation. So now we've keyframed this. So now if you play this back, this is what we're getting here. We are getting a nice little animation for our top cube. And now we're going to do the exact same thing for the bottom cube, but we're going to go ahead and reverse the X rotation. So let's go ahead and select our bottom cube here. Bottom cube controller, insert location and rotation at frame 1. Skip ahead to 30. And we want to do the same thing we just did. So we want to move it all the way over here to Y = 1. But then for our X, we actually want to do a negative rotation. So we're going to do -90. And then we're going to do I, location and rotation. So what we've just done there is we have keyframed the beginning and end of both of these cubes. So now if you play this back, you're going to get this really cool animation. And if we go ahead and press play with the spacebar, you'll see that it just keeps looping over and over again, seemingly infinite, which is the beauty of a loop in Blender. As long as you have your keyframes lined up just right, everything should infinitely loop like this. We're at that point in the tutorial where we can start applying some lighting and materials. So in terms of this project, what I did for the top cube was I actually applied my glass dispersion shader that you'll see in a previous tutorial. But for the bottom cube, I did something a little bit different, as well as the plane. I actually went to a website called Chocafer, or Chocafer, however you prefer to pronounce it. I highly encourage you to sign up for an account on this website, which I'll include in the description. They have tons of free shaders in here. I'm sure they have some models too. I haven't explored it crazy amount, but they do have some metal shaders, which I use all the time. They even have glass shaders and cloth shaders, so feel free to check this out. It's super useful resource for you guys here. So again, behind the scenes there, I just applied some of those materials. I did not apply the Chocafer materials, but I did put my own materials on here. We're in Eevee. Let's go ahead and switch to cycles here. So you can see the glass dispersion shader, and I just have some basic shaders on here. I'm going to go ahead and add an area light. Add light, area light. Let's go ahead and change the dimensions of that light to 40. I'm sorry, let's change it to a rectangle first, and then change it to 40 by 2.5. So we've got this nice skinny light here. Let's go ahead and pop out our rotational values here, and give the X rotation 90 and the Z rotation 90 and the X negative 90. And let's go ahead and move that back. Give ourselves some room here. Move it back to negative 10. Now we've got a little bit of lighting on our scene. Let's raise the power to 2000. There we go. That's more like it. And now just a couple final touches. Let's go to our camera here, change it to orthographic. I'm going to go to my scene dimensions, 1080 by 1080. That's the Instagram size. And now we just need to change our camera angle here. Although this is personal preference, I'll give you some hard data here. Now, although this is personal preference, I'll give you some basic numbers here. We can go ahead and put this at 6, negative 7, 7.5. That looks good. That's pretty level. Maybe change our angle a little bit. That's better. We don't want to see any edges of the plane here. That looks pretty good. You can even zoom in just a little bit more. Yeah, so you guys can fine-tune this to the way that you like it, but if you go ahead and play this back right now, you're going to get our animation, our full loop. It's pretty cool. So, and you guys can go ahead and apply this same effect with the empties with pretty much anything. So you guys can animate anything like this with a full loop. You can have pretty much any shape walking infinitely like this. So have fun with it, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next tutorial.